everybody. Hi. Hi, how are you doing? Good? Hopefully. Not too warm yet. Oh, yet. Hi. So welcome to another Northcoders graduation. They come around so fast. This is our biggest ever Developer Pathway graduation. These are as big as our kind of 12-week cohorts were back in the day. So there's quite a lot to get through. So I'm going to try and be as brief as I possibly can be, although I'm not famed for brevity. There's not a fire alarm expected, so if one goes off, please leave the building and coalesce in the Saddler's Yard, which is just next to the Pilcrow. And if you need the toilets and you're a man, please follow the corridor around that direction. And if you need the toilets and you're a lady, please follow the corridor around in that direction. So I'm going to get on with it, I guess, and hand over to Team Appy App, wherever they are. Please give them a round of applause. Okay.
Thank you very much. My name's Matt, and I'd like to tell you about our project, which is a brand new way of connecting pubs with their customers, a kind of dynamic happy hour mobile application, which we've called quite appropriately Appy App. It's Friday night and you're meeting some friends out. You've got a drink, but you're starting to think about where to go next. There's a place around the corner. It serves cheap drinks before 8 o'clock, but it's always packed. And you want to try somewhere different, but where are you going to go? How can you find out where the best deals are right now? That's where Appy App comes in. Perhaps you are a bar manager or bar owner, and it's a quiet night midweek. You want to liven things up, drum up some business, so you come up with a promotion. Maybe 2 glasses of wine for £5 or £3 for a pint of draft beer. Whatever it is, you want to get the message out, spread the word as quickly as possible. So how do you do it? Well, you simply log into Appy App. A few clicks later, and your promotion's gone to everybody who's got the app on their phone. So what is it that makes Appy App that little bit different, maybe that little bit fun? Well, every offer that goes out does so on an extremely time-limited basis, maybe 20 minutes or half an hour. If you see an offer on your phone, you've got to act quick or you might miss out. The clock is quite literally counting down to 0. I'd like to pass you on to Felicia to tell us about our app.
Hi guys, so I'll be showing you how the app actually works from a customer's perspective, but also from a business's perspective as well. If you could play the first one, please. So as you can see from the first page, you don't need to log in. It will just show you a list of all the coupons in your local area where you can find a deal. So you can click on a coupon and it will show you the timer of how long the deal is going to last. There's a QR code which you can show to the pub or the bar to get the deal. And then there's a description of the deal as well. And then if we go on to the next one, please. So the next video is from the pub or bar's perspective. Say it's having a quiet night and they want to post an offer. There are just some input boxes so they can put how long they want the offer to be on for, the price, the duration, of course, on the first bit, what drink it's going to be, and then what deal it is. So is it 2 for 1, buy one, get one free? Of course, that's the same thing, but sometimes, the wording counts. And then they can just post the offer and then see it immediately on the screen. So I'll just pass you over to Tal, who will show you the app flow.
Hi, so I will walk you through how our app is structured. Well, you can see, not the easiest app to build. The first challenge we had is how routing works in React Native. At first, I found the docs isn't very beginner-friendly. Then I thought, well, there must be a good reason why everyone is using it. So I kept practicing, followed the different tutorial, and eventually I came to understand and appreciate the way it is. So the screens, they are connected by the navigators. We have switch, drawer, stack, and tab. We use all of them to make a well-rounded user experience to navigate through our app. So when the app loads, we'll look for the user token. If it exists, we're going to push into the owner route. If not, we're going to push into the public route where everyone can see the promo and redeem it. Also, the pub owner can sign in and sign up. Let's look that part into more detail. So our authentication is built with AWS Cognito. The module does provide automatic solution, but then you don't have the flexibility to tailor the need for your app. And also you're missing the fun to explore what is under the hood. Here's a video shows you how the sign in, sign up, forget your password works in our app. Behind the scenes, there's actually quite a lot of logic happening. Here, particularly showing you how we're going to handle the different error handling. We also kind of move the screens, make sure the input field is always staying in the wheel. We use reactor riffs to jump between the input field. And if it's the last input, you can just click go to submit. Nobody really likes to fill in the forms. We just to be thoughtful and make sure every step is as pleasant as possible. Yeah, next. After that, in order to release a promo, you have to register your business. We make it very simple by hooking up with Google Place API. If we start a video, on the left, all you need is just to put your phone number, and then we're going to grab your business name, address, geolocation, and then we're going to create a basic profile for you automatically. And then you could also click the menu bar, like in the red video, and go to the edit your profile. You could upload a profile photo, add some description. Just make your business more attractive and appealing. That's all you need to do for a pub owner, and then you are ready to make some happy hours. Next, we're going to have Rich to talk about our front end.
Hi. So for obvious reasons that you're going to use the app when you're out and about, it needed to be a mobile app with easy access. And we really liked using React when we were on the course, so we decided to hone our skills with that and build from that foundation and use React Native. We used the Google Places API to get the information for the bars, so when a bar owner signs up, all they have to do is put in their phone number and the rest of their details are pulled from the Google Places API. Once we'd settled on the Google Places API, it was a natural fit to use the Google Maps to show the customers where the bars are with a map on the coupon screen. We styled the app using React, using native base and styled components on top of that because it allows for declarative and easy to read syntax. So when we were passing the app between members of the team, it was easy for everyone to see what was going on in the code. We used libraries for the QR code and for the countdown. And we used Expo when we were developing the app to speed the process up, as it allows for really good emulation of the app across different devices on different platforms. I'm now going to pass you over to Jack, who will explain the back end.
So on the back end, the main theme was serverless. The reasons why we did this was we wanted the ability to have flexibility of the languages that we used. The other factor was the fact we wanted to deploy on a market-leading platform. And a third one was, given the nature of the app, it's probably one that would need to scale, and therefore it would be quite a cost-effective way of doing it. So as a result, we decided to use AWS, functions as a service, and Lambda. So with the Lambda side of things, we had to think about whether we're going to use microservices, nanoservices, or a monolithic approach, and we settled on microservices and nanoservices. In terms of how we actually wrote the code, we kind of contained this in a way that we could, I guess, deploy it to different platforms and also be able to use different databases as well. In terms of the actual database, we did want to use SQL because a lot of our data is relational, but we had some challenges with the VPC in AWS, which made it more challenging to do. So for speed, we just thought, let's use the NoSQL DynamoDB database in there and get things running. That had its own challenges. One of them is it's a completely different query language and query framework, so there's a bit of learning that was required for that. We followed a full TDD approach. We used Jest for this, and we tested both the API endpoints and also the database integration side of it. And this helped us when we came to deploy to nail out any minor issues which happened. So overall, we learned a lot of new stuff, and there are a lot of challenges which we managed to overcome to have a fully functioning and deployable app. So I'll now pass you on to Alicia, who is going to talk to you about what we've learned.
So we learnt quite a lot. Obviously, it was a mammoth task for 10 days. So in the planning process, whilst we were at the pub, which is how we thought of the idea, we basically decided that the best way to do it would be to split the task between front end and back end. But obviously, everybody wanted a go at what we were doing. So in the beginning, we used Adobe XD to create wireframes of how we wanted the app to look like. And then after that, when we would split into our two groups, we decided that the best way for everybody to get caught up when they did want to switch into the other group was to create a docs page on GitHub, which would just have an overview of the main things that we needed to learn with the new languages, so that they can just get stuck in straight away when we needed a hand. So yeah, it was quite tough, but we really enjoyed the process. And thanks for listening. Does anyone have any questions?
Well done, everyone. That was fantastic. Do we have any questions in the audience at all? I'm capping it at 2, so because we've got a lot to get through. Yes.
I saw AWS Cognito on the diagram. What did you use that for?
We store the username, like the email address and password. We just like keep it separate from the user information from our database, like the professional AWS Cognito to handle all the details for the login.
Any more for any more? I'll just stand in the middle of the floor and apply pressure to you all. Someone will break.
Did you consider adding a login page for the user, or as an optional sort of way?
Yeah, definitely. And there will be add-on functionality. Like we also thought we should like split app into 2, like the deliverable or too good to go. Like then you could like have a login function, maybe had your favorite, and then maybe subscribe to some notification to the favorite pub and something like that.
Cool. Has anybody else got any? They were reasonably short. Anything? Cool. Okay, we'll leave it there then. Thank you very much. Round of applause, everybody. Okay, you may return to your seats. Thank you very much. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Team Find My Face, who I have located my face in the passing time. But yes, Dave, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. I would like to introduce you to the members of the Find My Face team. My name is David, and we have Will, Laura, Andrew, and Anna. So, Find My Face is an application which brings together professional photographers and event guests, allowing guests to find professional photos in which they are present from the event. A user simply uploads a selfie through their iOS app, and using the magic of facial recognition, will be presented with all of the images that they appear in. The idea itself came out of the experience of accessing photos that photographers had taken on a cruise holiday. The only way to access the photos was to use an application on a wall-mounted screen, which relied on you knowing which part of the ship you were on, or which bar, or which restaurant. That sounds simple, but it's not after a day of Caribbean rum punch. So we looked into this problem, and basically, clearly it was putting off customers and causing photographers to lose revenue. So we decided to put together an app which filters photos using facial recognition and would ultimately allow customers to purchase those photos. So I will now pass you on to Will to talk you through how the app works.
Cool. So this is the app that I'm going to talk through. There's two stages. There's the photographer side and the user side. So for photographer's landing page, the homepage, you'll be prompted to upload images and create an album name. So here we'll call it Northcoders, and then we'll go into the computer and select some images to upload. We can select multiple images at one time. And just so you know, there's 5 pictures of Shaq going into this album. That's a clue for later on. So here we go. Uploaded those images. They've gone into the database and created a folder. We can now go to the photographer's album page and have a look at any previous albums we've got and, yeah, have a look around. Cool. There's our Northcoders album in the database. We can then go to the photographer's account page, and there we can see the photographer's details, change any email addresses, passwords, stuff like that, and we can log out. Cool. So now we're going to go on to the mobile app, which is built in Swift, the user view. So here we're taken, when you open that, you're taken to a login page where you can sign in by email. This is using Google authentication on the back end. So when the user signs in, it creates an account specific for them. Shaq did volunteer, by the way, to be the very first user of our app, so he's got that pleasure. We'll give it a few seconds to load up. Cool. When it's done, it takes us through to the account details page for each user. You can see their details and email address, username, login. We'll then go down to the home view. Here, we're prompted to choose a selfie from the camera roll. So begin with, we won't choose Shaq. We'll choose an image that doesn't have a face there, and we'll see what error message it throws. No face detected. Cool. That's what we want. So we'll go back to the camera roll and choose this beautiful guy. When he loads. There you go. Grin to begin. Drum roll. How many photos do we get back? 5. It's worked. Nice. And I'll pass you over to Laura, who'll talk you through some of the front end.
So for the front end, as a group, we wanted to keep things simple, but we also didn't want to limit ourselves. So we chose React for the web browser app and Swift for the mobile iOS app. For planning, we used Adobe XD to make our original mockup, and although we didn't stick completely to the original mockup, the basic designs that we created with Adobe XD kept us on track and gave us a solid plan for us to follow. It was also really easy to import design assets directly from Apple that they provided online, which made it easier to envision the end product. For the web app, the photographer's interface, we decided it would be best to create something in the browser, as it would be easier to upload images from a desktop instead of a phone. So we decided to use React since it was something that everyone was comfortable with because it was what we learned during the course. We also decided that because of time constraints, it would be better to stick with something that we were familiar with. And for the mobile app, we decided to use Swift and Xcode. As a group, we decided that we wanted to learn something new, and we were all interested in developing a native application. All of the members of our team had iPhones, so it made sense to choose Swift for testing and development purposes. While Swift can be coded on other IDEs like VS Code, Apple's Xcode made for a seamless development experience. With Xcode, you can design your app with storyboards and quickly drag and drop styled components into your code, where it instantly creates code for that component, which you can then add functions to. The storyboard method made it very easy to quickly create an app without having to worry about time. Another reason for choosing Swift was the built-in facial detection. So that is how the grin to begin and no faces detected work. Using the Swift Core Image Library, you can detect faces in a photo, check if a person is blinking, smiling, and more. To save space on the back end, we decided it would be best if users could only upload selfies and nothing else, which would also prevent our function in the back end from triggering on pictures that didn't include faces. And after doing research on all of the front-end technologies, we concluded that these choices would also be best for integrating into Firebase, which brings us into our back-end tech stack.
So for the back end, we utilized Firebase. That is the foundation for our product. It communicates really effectively with React and Swift, which are the two applications that we use that Laura's talked about and also will give us a demo. It does our authentication, it does our database and storage for our photos and our selfies, and it also is where our functions live for our facial recognition. Now, talking about the facial recognition, we actually developed over the course of the last 2 weeks 2 different facial recognition libraries. One was in Python and one was in JavaScript, and I'll come back to the JavaScript one in a sec. The one that we used for Python, we developed it as far as we could, but because Python was a new language to us, we did hit a couple of stumbling blocks and a couple of glitches. One in particular was that the face recognition was matching crotches as faces. That is a very different app to what we wanted to present today. So, reluctantly, we moved over to JavaScript. We've obviously learned JavaScript and worked with it during the course during the boot camp. We were able to debug it, not bring up crotches, and get something that was fully working, just like Will demoed a moment ago. In terms of choosing between Firebase and other backends, we did consider Amazon Web Services. We did our research. We spent the best part of 2 days looking into the various things. But like Laura said, because we specifically wanted to use Swift, the Firebase made the most sense for what we wanted to do so that we could produce a minimum viable product to present to you today. I'm now going to hand over to Anna, that's going to talk about best practices.
Wait for that slide to pop up. Okay, so there were a number of things that worked particularly well during our project. And during the conception and research phase, we used Miro boards, and it's the collaboration software. It's useful during the spike phase, and it was for building our tech stack, and we just collect all the information there, and we stored links and resources as well. We also made good use of wireframing to quite a professional level on Adobe XD. It was really part of our planning process. The basic wireframe tied in with the user journey and the app layout, and it's provided the basic layout for the functionality as well. In our development phase, we found it really useful to have rotation of team members, and it's helped to share knowledge and sort of continue our sort of full stack experience from the course in front end and back end. We did face a number of challenges though, one namely being Firebase. There is a wealth of documentation online, but this took us a while to get used to. Also, there was an initial hurdle of understanding the infrastructure and Firebase ecosystem, and this proved to be quite challenging. We also took on Swift and Xcode, and I'd like everyone to bear in mind that this is a completely new language to us. There was a steep learning curve, and although syntactically it is similar to JavaScript, and any JavaScript developer would be able to read it, it's actually quite difficult to learn to write it. We would have liked more time to sort of practice and play with it, but we learned by doing to overcome this. In terms of successes, I don't know if other teams mentioned this, but we think it's really important to celebrate small wins. And it's especially important when you're having a bad day, when you're in dependency hell and you're logging errors. It's easy to get really despondent. I think one memorable win was in our first week. We were just taking on Swift, and it's a whole day of just going through documentation and getting compiling errors. And we managed to get a button to render, and it just kind of made our day. So, yeah. So thank you all very much for that.
Thank you very much. So we've already had one question come in through YouTube, so I'll ask that one straight off the bat. And the question was, if you had had more time, would you have tried and stuck it out with Python, or do you feel like in the end that JavaScript was the best choice for this?
No, definitely. If we had more time, it took us the best part of a week to get the Python function. Well, we got it up and running pretty quickly. Then it took the best part of a week to struggle with Firebase, and we did actually reluctantly move on to JavaScript. It was spiking out. We knew there were multiple facial recognition packages out there, so it wasn't like we were stuck with Python. We knew there were backups, so instead of wasting more time trying to get the Python working, we moved on. But given the fact that if we had more time, we would have stuck it out, I think.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions in the audience? Find my face. I'm waiting. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, back again. So now we've got a team nearby who are going to talk you through their app.
Hi, so we're called Nearby, and we wanted to design an app that was inclusive and community driven, and encourage local people to share moments that are around them. So the way that we did with this was to create an app that uses channels, so you can select what areas you're interested in and upload images to share that moment with people in your local area. This relies on the geolocation and like everybody knowing where certain events are taking place, and getting notifications when when somebody uploads that image. So this is my name's Ben, David, Greg, and Mike. I'll pass you on. Sorry, I'll pass you on to David now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Hi, my name is David, and I'm here today to give you a quick run of our Nearby app. Mike, please. If you are not a user, you can create your new account. This is the authentication is handled through Firebase. Once you are done, you're going to be redirected to this beautiful page in which you can choose the channels you are interested in. We've got plenty, and as a new user, you can create more channels if you want to. Once you are done, you're going to be redirected to your home page, and you're going to see all the feeds from the channels you selected. If you see something you like, you click it, and then you go to the map, and you are going to get the exact location of the event. This is done through Expo, and yeah, you pretty much that's it. And the next video. In this video, pretty much you are wandering around the street, you see something you like, you want to share, you press the camera button, you take the picture, then you go to the channels selection, you choose the channels you want to select this event with, and then once you are done, that's it. That's pretty much is the main functionality of our app. And with that, I'm going to pass the microphone to Gregory, who is going to talk us through the tech stack.
Thank you very much. I'm here to talk about the tech stack that we've used to develop this app. And for the front end, we've used React Native as well as Expo. And for the back end, we've developed the app in Python and Flask. How the app works, we developed a backend server in Flask, and this is written in Python as well. And we used a package called Parabase to wrap the Python in order to connect with the database, which is Firebase. We utilized Firebase real-time database to store users' data. As well, we then used Firebase storage to store the images that are taken. And then also we use Firebase to authenticate users as they sign in. The reason we've chosen these tech stacks we've used, for React Native, we wanted to develop a cross-platform app, and it chose itself because React Native will help us do that. And we chose Expo because because of its testing and its emulation. And we were also able to use the notification functionality for our push notification. We chose Firebase because we liked the documentation, and we were able to utilize it to develop the app. Then for Python and Flask, we knew we wanted to challenge ourselves and learn a new language. In the 2 weeks that we have spent developing this app, we've been able to write our backend and write all our codes in Python. And I've succeeded, I believe, in presenting to you this app. I will now pass on to, the mic to Mike to tell you the challenges we faced.
Cheers, Greg. So, yeah, I'm going to be talking about the problems, of which we had quite a few, so get comfortable. We might be here for a while. So I think we can split them down into about 50-50. We had like 50% technical problems, 50% non-technical, and they started early on. So during the planning phase, we had lots of ideas, which was a problem, but a nice problem to have. But then deciding on one of those ideas was where we had a bit of a split. So the group was split, and we decided to put a little bit of democracy into action. So we implemented a voting system, and that helped us to decide, okay, this is how we're going to proceed. This is how we're going to make the decisions in the future. That allowed everyone to have their say. Everyone felt heard, and everyone was involved in the decision-making process. Next one's a bit of a personal one for me. So whilst debugging, so with mobile apps, I found it a little bit more difficult. After working with JavaScript and Node, I got used to just seeing exactly what I wanted from an error in the stack trace. To solve that, we sort of paired up whenever there was a problem, and that's when we utilized the team a little bit more. And my advice there is probably to just stick with the stack trace, and you'll find out your error eventually. The next problem is one that is a bit of a trope for Northcoders projects, GitHub and merge errors. As most groups say, they've only really worked in pairs and on their own, but our team's obviously a little bit bigger. So early on, we weren't very structured in our file system, how we were making new components, and that led to a lot of merge errors. But eventually, we sorted this out. So after the one day of particularly bad merge errors, we finished coding. Ben took the code home and basically split everything out into components. And this allowed us to make component-specific branches, and then we could move on from there without many errors at all, really, when it came to GitHub. Later on in the project, so the last couple of days, when time pressures got a little bit more intense, and we were focused on getting the MVP ready and out of the door, it meant we had like a few problems heads down in the code, and people weren't aware of what was coming out of each component to be passed on to the other one, so what data types are coming out, and specifically how to access that data. So how we fixed that was basically making sure we utilized stand-ups a little bit more, had more conversations, and tell people exactly what was coming through. So our lessons learned for the next projects we go on to. Planning's key. Deciding on how you're going to work is just as important as the tech stack that you're going to use. Flexibility is obviously very key, especially in a small team. Everything's going to change very quickly. And sometimes you're going to have to jump onto a technology you might not have been working on for the past day or two, so you need to be able to adapt to that and jump onto what you need to. Personally, I found this like a really challenging experience, learning a new language, going from React to JavaScript to React Native was really difficult. There's a lot of new stuff to learn, but my advice is basically take those bad moments and use it to build up your team. So our team spirit really was improved when we had those bad times. But also celebrate the little victories. So whenever there's a little chance to celebrate, when you fixed an error, fix the bug, that's when you really need to celebrate that and ride the wave of positivity. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'll leave you with a little quote. And yeah, any questions?
Thanks very much. I preferred the previous slide, actually. It inspired me a lot. Can we go back? I love that. That's like utopia. That's not going to happen, is it? Okay, cool. So thank you very much. We already have one question off YouTube, and it was, how did you go about researching what backend you were going to use, and why did you eventually decide on Python and Flask?
Okay. So Firebase allowed you to listen into when changes happened. We also part of us just wanted to use Python in general. And we were hoping that we could have an API that would have our information through Python. So some information would be private and you'd only have access to through the app, but then some things you'd be able to access from anywhere. So I think that pretty much covers it.
Thank you. Questions from the audience. Now, I've been told we've got time now, so so who wants to ask a question?
Oh, that's it.
Thank you very much, then. Thank you. we'll kick off now.
Hi everyone, we're Josh, Kelly, Mo, Matt and myself, Sam, and we've made an augmented reality mobile app for Android called Yesteryear. So what if you could point your phone at the world around you and see back in time? That's basically the idea that sparked the development of this app. We were all really excited about the concept of a kind of chronological X-ray vision that would allow you to see through your camera worlds, places, people, eras gone by, facilitated by augmented reality to bring the past to life. Quite a key inspiration for this project was the work of a photographer called Seth Tarras, who did a project for the History Channel in 2010 called Know Where You Stand, that superimposed famous old photographs over their present-day locations. So I'll give you a little breakdown of the app and how it works and what it does. So on loading the app, by tapping I've got too many apps, the icon, we arrive at a landing page, standard sign-up, login forms. We're going to log in as Jodie Whittaker, the current Doctor Who. Other time travelers are available. And we're taken to a home screen, which renders a series of nearby yesteryear locations based on your proximity to them. And as well as there's also the ability to access an account page to see your profile and various information. Tapping the top right navigate button takes you to a map view, which shows the user's current GPS location, as well as all the yesteryear locations in their immediate vicinity. You can tap on one of those locations and that'll make a little info pop-up appear, showing the location and the time, and tapping on that takes you to an information screen which tells you a bit more about what you'll see at that location, as well as a list of visitors, so other users who've chosen to tag themselves as having visited there. We're not able to do that because we've not visited the location yet, so that top right-hand icon is disabled. If we tap on one of the locations from the home screen, we're taken to a map view, and we can actually call up Google Maps or Uber if we're keen to get there in a hurry. That will show the location on Google Maps and give us the opportunity to get directions straight there if we feel we need assistance with that. So all we have to do is get ourselves to the location, and tapping on the camera button, we open up the camera view. Here we are at Salford Lads Club, for any Smiths fans. We find ourselves to the real world marker, and the camera does some image detection and renders the Smiths in 1986. So here's a little view back in time. The less said about Morrissey these days, the better. But so yeah, we're able to now see an image which is rendered with preset 3D spatial coordinates, which are relative to the marker and of course to the user's device. You're able to do a bit of manipulation of this image as well, so you can really get the sense of sort of seeing the past and the present combined. Did you know that Piccadilly Gardens once was host to a Nazi V2 rocket? Because it was. Here it is in 1952 next to the, what's his name? I've forgotten his name, but he's a Scottish engineer, this statue. And we can take a look at that from all different kinds of angles. So yeah, there's a few more examples in upcoming video clips, but I'll pass you over now to Mo, who's going to talk you through our tech stack.
Cheers, mate. So for our technology stack, we've used Cloud Firestore for the backend. We just needed something that was simple, quick. It's a pretty front-end heavy project, so we wanted something that didn't really take too much time up. Yeah, so we didn't really have to build any REST APIs, as Firebase really takes care of that. And to add to that, the syntax is fairly straightforward and simple, as yeah, you can really pick your own software development kit. And yeah, we chose JavaScript because that's what we've learned and what we know. And for the front end, initially it took a lot of time to really research what we wanted to pick and what we wanted to use. So we narrowed it down to two options. One of them would be React Native with Viral React, which would handle our AR aspect of the app. Or the other option would have been React Native in the Expo client, and that would also, and then also 3.js to handle the AR aspect and the 2D image rendering. So between the two, Expo is quite handy compared to React Native for when it comes to setting up projects. It doesn't take as long as it doesn't take as long as React Native Bear really to just set up a project and go ahead and code. However, we found that for Expo, the AR and the image recognition was a bit iffy, so there was only really one option to kind of get to our minimum viable product, which was React Native with Viro React. Eventually, we did find a way to combine both. We set up a Expo client within React Native. So we basically built every single component that wasn't AR or map based within Expo, and we then ejected that into the React Native app that handled the AR and the maps. And I will pass you on to Matt to talk a bit more about the front end.
Cheers, mate. Keep this brief. Front end, we used Azure for the wireframe. Actually, a very nice little tool. It maps out everything in like a snazzy way. You can export all the HTML. We didn't use that feature, but it's nice to have. In terms of actual development with React Native, there's loads of plugins and platforms to streamline the service, but couldn't use any of them because of Viro's Bootstrap. So React Native without any plugins is like very tricky. The maps took 7 days to fix. It made things interesting though. It was pretty fun to use and only took a couple of days once everything was set up, which is ideal because we started a couple of days ago. So, yeah, and now over to Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm going to talk to you about the AR. We chose Viro React because it's 100% open source, cross-platform, and does marker-based AR really well. We also did consider using Unity, but we thought it would be a bit much to do learning a new language in 2 weeks as well as all the other challenges. We also looked at location-based AR, but once we've done a bit of investigation, it's relatively new, and also you'd need some really good hardware to get any sort of accuracy. So we decided to go with the marker-based. So how it works under the hood. The image is rendered relative to the position of the marker that you see on the floor. And we can also access the properties of the image. So we can look at the position, we can look at the rotation, and we can look at the size. Initially, when we did our first test, when we went out into the field, we used some gesture-based methods. So we'd use like on drag to move the image around, or we'd use on pinch to expand or make the image smaller. However, we found it was a bit erratic, and sometimes when you tapped the image, it sort of flew off into the distance, which is probably not ideal. So as you can see, we put some sliders in, and that allowed us to control it a bit better. And also, it allowed us to add a bit more functionality, such as the opacity, which I think really added something to the app. So now I'm going to hand you over to Josh, who is going to speak to you about some of the problems and also the solutions to those problems.
Thank you, Kelly. Awesome. So problem solved and challenges overcome. So as you can imagine, trying to bring 3 technologies together, brand new to us, was incredibly difficult. From the get-go, choosing a tech stack that would work. We spent a lot of time researching each tech stack was possible with our minimal viable product, and making a decision became harder and harder as there's so much out there and so many different ways to use this technology. Each technology had its own positives, had its own negatives, but we eventually decided on the tech stack we've shown you. The second problem we faced was Android versus iOS. Most of us had Android phones, so we decided that the best way to go forward was to use Android. However, we soon realized that building apps in Android is like 40% more difficult than in iOS and takes that much longer. And the third and final problem was, as some libraries are not continuously updated, we got into this thing called dependency hell. And because Viro React relies on products that are outdated, and I can only use React Native, I think version 59.7 or something, you could imagine that debugging and combining all these certain dependencies together was an absolute nightmare.
How we solve these problems. First of all, communication, communication, communication. You could imagine that working in a team of 5, brand new technology, and it is crucial to have good forms of communication. We use stand-ups every morning, we did Kanban boards, we used Trello boards. All of these led to a flow that did work, and were able to get a minimal viable product, and it is a work in progress, but it works and it's beautiful. And very finally, dependency hell, not much to expect except for determination, hard work, and a lot of stubbornness to get something to work. We also were able to email the development team of Viro Media with issues about outdated gist to try and understand where our code was actually going wrong on the dependency side. And we've realized this morning that they've actually updated what we pointed out was wrong. And so no one else that ever creates something with this will ever have that problem that we spent 3 days on. It's been an absolute privilege, this app. I've really enjoyed working with this team. We've had a lot of fun, a lot of difficulties, but thank you very much, guys. Any questions?
Amazing, well done. It's really interesting to me seeing that from a historical perspective, that Piccadilly Gardens was more aesthetically pleasing in the wake of the Second World War than it is now. But cool, so we've got some questions, and the first one off YouTube was, why did you opt for the name Yesteryear? Somebody can explain that clever pun.
We were literally looking for words to do with history that had the letters A and R in them next to each other. So that's why we did that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So Shaq on YouTube, this year's model, has asked, given extra time, what additional features would you have liked to implement?
So the social media aspect maybe, so you can upload your own historical photos, and then we'd have more reason to use like Firebase because of like the Firestore, Firecloud, real-time thing, uploading the photos and stuff.
And even just be sort of historical images. You could broaden it to something slightly more generic. Ours had a particularly sort of like historical bent, but it could be a platform where users can share location photographs, not on an Instagram account, but actually in the real world all around you, you know, for other people to come and find. So that'd be quite a cool way to develop it.
And any questions in the audience at all? Yes, Alex.
Cheers. Sorry, I could just see Mo's face dropping because he thinks I'm going to embarrass him. No, like, where did the idea come from? And did you have any other ideas, and how did it sort of come together into what it is now? Or did you have like more expectations or less, or anything like that?
So we really needed an idea, so I went out for a cig with Mo and just came up with it. My other idea was like a ticket selling platform that monetizes it with adverts, but the point isn't just like making money or a business plan, it's to have like a nice idea in it and use new technology. So, yeah, just sort of, yeah.
Any more questions from the room at all? Yes.
So can you talk me through the process a little bit on, so if you've got a new image now, new historical image, what information would you need to make it work, and how would you go about putting that into the application?
Yeah, so obviously you're sort of limited in terms of, because we went for a marker-based solution, you know, that would be something that, unless you were going to do some like guerrilla graffiti and like leave your own permanent markers around the city, you know, it'd have to, you know, we were thinking in the same way that you go down to the promenade and you have a coin-operated telescope, if maybe got some sort of local tourism initiative going with a local authority, they could put some of these things down, and so you'd have things for people to come and have a look at. But in terms of adding new photos to that would be a case of, well, that's more sort of like Firebase-y kind of stuff.
Our original idea was actually to use geolocation, but geolocation is very new to the industry, and literally all the videos are guys like walking around with their telephone in the air and a laptop in their hand trying to calibrate their phone, which in the 2 weeks, we thought, this is very new, we don't think we'll be able to do this. Yeah.
So yeah, with location markers, they're only accurate within 3 meters, so you can't really use them because the photo would be like not in the right space, basically.
Oh, any more at all? Excellent. Well, in that case, we will close up on a big round of applause, please. Could the graduates please stand?